It's spinning. There we go. All right. Welcome to American Hammers TV. It's the West Ham Weekend Review for Sunday evening, November 10th, 2019. If you're still sticking with us and still sticking with West Ham, God bless you. You deserve some sort of medal. Speaking of which, happy Veterans Day tomorrow to all of our veterans in the UK, the US, and anybody who's ever been on our side. My dad served in the Army. I had two cousins who went through West Point. Another cousin who was in the Navy. I was too lazy and fat to be in the military, so I'm grateful that they were in it instead of me. So I have a lot of strong military links in the family. I just want to say happy Veterans Day, everybody. Also, if you would please check out two things. Check out our website, AmericanHammersTV.us, and there's a link there to buy scarves. We've got a new batch of scarves that are more claret than the old ones were. So I don't know if you guys, Ray, Chris, and David, if you guys got scarves or not, but I have one and I like it, but it is kind of red. And the new ones are like proper claret. So that's good. Also, check out threadless.ahtv.com, or maybe it's ahtv.threadless.com. I can never remember. Anyway, if you look it up, you'll find it. That's the store where you can buy all kinds of tchotchkes and clothes and weird magnets and stuff with logos, all sorts of logos on it. You can get your logo on it. We'll get a Hammers Boston one going, David. We can get
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you can get Dallas Hammers in Kansas City, and I think Luis has a Brazil one out there now. Anyway, tons and tons and tons of stuff. But check that out. And I know Tim would be very upset if I didn't mention that. So tonight we have Ray from where are you actually in England, Ray? Aren't you up north somewhere?
Yeah, I'm in like just the Midlands, but Liverpool was the area, so.
Okay.
And they won today, which is annoying because it's busy.
And they won with many controversial decisions.
Yeah, there was some VAR controversy.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really see it, but I saw a lot of clips on Twitter of VAR decisions and a lot of other stuff that did not go for Manchester City. And I saw Pep Guardiola
the sarcasm.
Shake the ref, shake the official's head. Oh, thanks very much for such a great game.
Yeah.
By the way, you know what? If Pellegrini did that, he'd be fined like $2 billion and suspended for half the season, right? But if Pep does it, he can get away with it. So, so we have Ray up in Liverpool. We have David about 30 miles south of me in Boston, and we have Chris, who is currently in Pennsylvania. And I told the guys before we started, I am putting out a West Ham level of effort tonight, which is to say, did not bother to wear a shirt. This is a free T-shirt I got from where my wife works at University of Massachusetts Lowell. So, and I haven't brushed my hair, haven't done anything. I just walked upstairs and turned on the lights. So I'm in full Felipe Anderson mode, or full, I even had a great joke I was going to tell because we thought Luis from Sao Paulo was going to be on tonight, but he wasn't able to make it. So I was going to say, Luis lives in Sao Paulo, a city of 24 million people, all of whom are better goalkeepers than Roberto.
Yeah.
Well, the idea, of course, tonight is to go through headlines, news, etc., which we'll get to in a minute, although my computer keeps crashing every time I'm trying to bring something up. So I think what we should do is cleanse our palates and our souls a little bit and go around the horn and talk about yesterday's game and everything that is wrong at the club right now. And that'll pretty much carry us through the next hour.
Right? We only have an hour for this show, right?
Do what?
We only have an hour for this show, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know we could go for 24 hours, but Ray, I know you've got to cut out a little bit early, so why don't you get us started with your thoughts? Did you see any positives yesterday at all? Any positives?
No,
I didn't either. Tell us what you thought. Give us your rant. Give us what your.
Oh, it was absolutely shocking. We literally did not perform. They out-muscled us. They worked us. Our goalkeeper was shocking. Absolutely shocking. I did actually do a review that's been uploaded on the other earlier. So if you want to go see that, then you can see me rant and be sad. It actually took me 24 hours to actually do it because I was that disappointed. I nearly cried.
I had trouble even doing this show tonight, and I love doing these shows. I do. I love doing American Hammers TV. But I just have to say that I'm so depressed with the club right now that it was hard to come up here and think, man, I got to talk about this for an hour. I don't know, Chris, what's on your mind tonight?
I don't even know. I think the biggest thing that bothers me is that Pellegrini keeps sticking with the same formation when he knows that Haller is not good on his own as he would be as a partner. Burnley going into that match in their last three matches had conceded 10, and in the first half we didn't even register a shot on goal. And one of the other things that annoyed the hell out of me too was we had been crying out for Anderson to be played up the middle. Why the hell was he still always over on the left?
I don't know.
Why? It makes no sense.
Yeah, nothing makes any sense. David, did you go to the Banshee and watch it?
Yeah, I was at the Banshee watching it. I have a lot of different feelings about where the club is now. But the two things I want to focus on first is just Roberto. Ever since the Fabianski injury, I was theorizing Roberto, he's going to cost us 5 to 7 points.
Oh, no.
But I didn't think it would be this bad. It is just highest level of bad goalkeeping I've ever been witness to. That third goal where he just reached up and punched it into the net. I don't want to excuse the other West Ham players. Don't get me wrong. They're not putting a lot of effort. They don't look cohesive. The passing compared to where it was at the beginning of the season is really off. You can see bad passes and players kind of throwing up their hands in frustration saying, I can't believe that happening. But Roberto is just obviously a massive disaster. I don't even know if we should go with David Martin, the third choice goalkeeper. I've never seen him play, but it seems to me like anything is better than Roberto. I just found out today he's the son of Hammers legend Alvin Martin, so maybe there'd be some mojo there.
That's one thing.
The other thing I want to point out is that our squad was playing very well at the beginning of the season. We kind of seemed we had a set system. I actually liked Masuaku at fullback. I liked Ogbonna at center back. Yeah. I liked how we were able to get forward, and then we kind of had that trio of passing, and we could actually break and score. That's not there anymore. But what this points out to me is even though we have, a core of 5 or 7 very talented players, we actually do not have a lot of depth. Our squad is very short on depth. I think we only have 3 passable center backs. I think our center midfielder position has no depth whatsoever. You have Declan Rice. He's great. I'm happy we have him. He's probably a generational talent, even though he's been struggling with what's been going on around him. But Jack Wilshere, Carlos Sanchez, Mark Noble, that center midfield it's just not very good. There's not a lot of depth there. And I think we have a lot of attacking midfielders or attacking wide players, but we only have 2 strikers. We only have Haller and Ayeti. So I think there's places on the pitch where we don't have a lot of depth. And I think it's strange we signed Pablo Fornals, who has the same position as Lanzini. It's just certain areas we don't have a lot of depth. And I think that's kind of contributing to our problems, along with the Roberto signing.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into, and you're absolutely right. I think the first thing, I'll tell you what, there's three things I'd like to cover. We don't cover anything else. And finally, we have two people watching. Finally, there are almost people watching as we have in the chat. In the stream. So anybody who's in the chat room, please jump in if you're there. If you're not, listen, I totally understand. I wouldn't want to watch you talk about West Ham right now either. Let's start with. I want to talk about Roberto. I want to talk about Pellegrini, and then I want to advance a little conspiracy theory before we go. Let's talk about Roberto. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say. When Tim and I used to run a semi-pro club in Lowell, Mass, we had probably 2 keepers who wouldn't have been any worse. Really wouldn't have been any worse. Could at least position themselves on set pieces. I'm talking about 16, 17-year-old kids who, honestly, I don't know. They wouldn't have been. They'd have been able to handle a fairly standard corner, without actually fisting the ball into their own net. So.
And he's massive too, so you see him and you're like, "Oh, he's going to be good." But it makes no sense, and his reaction
I mean, I'm all for David Martin only because the problem I have, and I said this, yesterday when Ken and I were talking. Just because Roberto's bad doesn't mean David Martin's not still worse.
That could be a possibility. I've just never seen him, so.
However,
anything is possible.
He is bad.
Okay, Ray, what do you know about David Martin? Tell us what you know.
Yeah, you probably know better than anyone else.
Well, he used to play for Millwall, and that standard of football is just nowhere near good enough. He only come to the West Ham team to join the under-21s to help the youth team. Which is fine because he's not really costing us much money. I think it's like a couple of grand a week for a professional footballer, and he's literally just playing with the kids, so making sure they're okay. But yeah, he's not Premiership standard.
So, what do we do? I mean, do we coax Rob Green out of retirement? Is there a free agent floating around out there somewhere we can sign? I mean, obviously we can't have Roberto out against Spurs in 2 weeks. I just don't see any way. He's not capable of playing at Premiership level. David Martin doesn't seem to be either. Nathan Trott's on loan to Cambridge or somebody like that, or Oxford, down in League One. I can't imagine bringing him straight up. What do we do?
We've got that other youth player, haven't we? We've got that other youth goalkeeper. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him as well. I don't know. It's Yang or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. I think he's from. Isn't he from Ghana or someplace? I think he is.
Oh, he is. Yes, I know because the Ghanaian gamers on Twitter have been posting about him.
Yes.
That's the only reason I know he's Ghanaian.
Yeah, he's from Ghana. Yeah. So I mean, which seems crazy because again we're playing in like the second division of Premier League 2. It's the second division of the reserve league. But I mean, at this point, I don't know. I'm willing to try. No, that's what I'm saying. It can't be worse. I don't know if David Martin could be worse, although I think maybe he could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I trust Ray on this because I'm sure Ray has seen more of him and knows more about him than I do. I just know he came from Millwall, which is not a great sign to begin with. But I mean, has anybody talked about? I mean, seriously, is there a recently retired and out of contract keeper somewhere? Is there somebody floating around who could put in 8-10 games for us before Lanzini comes back?
Well, are we not at our maximum of players that we can have signed?
Well, that's a good question. We may be.
I don't need it though.
Yeah, I think we've maxed out completely.
Could we ditch Roberto?
Cut him mid-season.
I think Ray's right. If you have your maximum signings, I don't think it matters if you release a player. Correct? Yeah.
You have to wait till January transfer window again.
Okay, you have to wait till January.
That's correct.
So we're totally stuck on that front. So
yeah, we're stuck. I didn't think about that, but that's true.
It's or youth, and I'm happy to give the youth a go.
Yeah.
At this point, I am too. I don't know. What do you think?
A few more matches until Fabianski returns.
I think it's late December. They said he would return.
Yeah, sometime in December, and
the only problem,
a 2-week break until the next West Ham game.
Right. I mean, the international break comes at a fantastic time. I'm happy to have an international break as this one. But I mean, late December still means we play. I have to think about it. Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, I think Wolves, and maybe Leicester in that time frame. I mean,
yeah, our next run, the next like 5 or 6 games are all against top or half teams, and we're sitting down at 16th.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a relegation scrap again, and I don't care what people say. We are. We look at the table. I mean, I know we're however many points out of 8th place, but that's not the point. The point is our form plus where we are in the table equals a relegation scrap. Plus the injury problems we have right now. That's where we are. And then this set of matches we're going into, I mean, this is a real crisis to me.
Yeah. I think I saw on the table, like if you Google Premier League table, it also shows like the last 5 results. We are tied for the worst run of form in the last 5 matches, at least, with the bottom 2 clubs in the table.
Yeah. It's relegation form. I mean, 1 point out of the last however many matches we've had, and look at the opponents they've been against. It's clear relegation form. There's just no question about it. So if I'm with you on bringing up, the Ghanaian keeper. Why not give him a shot? I mean, give the kid a shot. He couldn't be any worse. So what do we do about Pellegrini? Okay, so we can all be Pellegrini out, which I'm Pellegrini out at this point. But let's ask the question: who replaces him? And because I don't know here, anybody want to jump in with thoughts on that? Chris, let's start with you this time. What do you think? What's your deal with Pellegrini? And if you're Pellegrini out, who comes in?
I'm definitely Pellegrini out. I don't know as of right now. Like, I don't know who we could bring in mid-season. The only manager that I know that is somewhat I'm not too up to date with all of like the manager situations, but the only two that I know of that are pretty high profile that would be potentially able to be lured in are the chosen one or Kovac who just sacked by Bayern. Those are the only two that I know of, and those are both going to be pretty damn big wages after buying out Pellegrini's contract. So I don't know if the board would be able to even do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if you agree or don't agree with Pellegrini out, our owners don't have a history of wanting to buy a manager out and waste money, and he signed on this year. I think Bilic should have been fired earlier, but they held off on that because they didn't want to pay him. And with the money they've invested in Pellegrini, I don't think they'll fire him unless it gets really, really bad.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Ray, what's your thought on that?
Well, they save so much money on wages across the board. They should have money there to get rid of him.
Yeah,
and they don't necessarily have to just pay him all up front. They just pay him as each month as it goes. So just carry on paying him.
Yeah, I think he has to go. I see in him now what we saw with Bilic toward the end of his time here. What we saw with this looks like the Avram Grant season to me. These types of performances look like.
In my opinion, he's got like 2 matches left, and if he doesn't get any points out of them, he's got to be gone.
Which what's going to happen. We all know what's going to happen.
We're going to beat Spurs, and then he's going to.
Of course we are. Of course we are.
His job is saved, regardless of where we finish.
Of course we're going to beat Spurs because this is when that happens, right?
Not to mention that Spurs do have a pretty poor run of form at the moment.
Yeah, they're on a pretty bad run of form too. That's what's so disappointing about this.
I wouldn't mind Pochettino.
No, well, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
That would be
swap.
Crazy.
I think Mourinho would be a disaster on many levels. I do think he would bring us some success, but he's one of those guys who I know he was highly successful at Porto, but after that, every place he's been has been a big money club. And these guys like Pellegrini who manages big money clubs and they're successful, sure, anybody can do that. I mean, I could roll a ball out at training in Manchester City or Liverpool and I'd probably get those guys to finish top 5 on my own.
Yeah, I think too this is a case of when West Ham supporters were saying we should sign Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Zlatan Ibrahimovic probably thinks West Ham is below him. Mourinho probably thinks West Ham is below him. I think as a West Ham supporter, I don't think there's enough at our club to attract Jose Mourinho.
I did see an article though that Jose's says that if a Premier League comes in for him, he would at least consider it. So I think the bigger issue would end up being.
I think it depends on the Premier League club who's offering it to him.
The bigger issue ends up too. Mourinho is one of the kinds that isn't really about developing players as much. He's just about bringing the best players. Just splash the cash on everyone.
That's right. That's
and
right.
So
and he will wreck the club.
Yes.
Ultimately.
I mean, you look at what Manchester United is now after he left.
Every place he goes, when he leaves, it just falls apart. He loses the players. He loses the supporters, and it leaves it in smoldering wreckage. Yeah, he wins trophies. He does. He's successful. But then, I mean, it's
not long term.
He paid for it for years afterward, and I don't think he'd win a trophy with us. I don't think we have that kind of squad. I think we'd have, some mild success. I think we play a lot of football our fans don't like to watch, and then he'd leave us in a smoldering heap. And I don't think he'd come here anyway. I think that's a pipe dream, to be honest. I think for us, it's going to be somebody like Chris Hughton or
I wouldn't mind Chris Hughton.
At this point, I would take. I would take David Moyes back right now. Quite frankly,
I wouldn't take David Moyes back, but I wouldn't mind Chris Hughton. I think he's underrated.
I think
just as a stopgap, not as a.
I don't think David Moyes would want to come back if we offered him the job.
I don't think he'd come back. No, as a stopgap.
We kind of screwed him over a little bit.
Of course we did, and but anybody who at this point can
Just give me 2 seconds.
yeah, of course, can organize the team, and can get the dressing room back, get the players back to putting out some level of effort. I would rather have long term a young manager. You know who my pick is. Everybody knows who I want as our manager. It's Scotty Parker, because I love Scott.
I loved him as a West Ham player.
I loved him as a player. He's done relatively well so far at Fulham. I know he's very inexperienced, and it's probably not a very good idea, but I would love to have him.
It'd be interesting for sure.
He knows the club.
I mean, he would definitely be better than Pellegrini at the moment.
Well, I think anybody would.
Yeah.
He knows the club. He's a fiery guy. He's young. I would love it, but again, it's it may be a little premature. I think it would have to be somebody like, I keep saying Chris Hughton because it's all I can think of. Because I think a Kovac and Mourinho, these guys are going to make an enormous amount of money. You're going to have to look at somebody who is sort of out of a job, but was recently in management, relatively successful, with a club not unlike ours. I think
that limits options massively.
It limits options massively, and they got to be willing to come and work for the Dildo Brothers and their nasty good wife Karen, who writes her column in the Sun, which does more good, and yeah. So it's not going to be easy. And I'm with you, Ray. I mean, I don't think they're going to buy him out anytime soon, or maybe it was Christian. I don't think they're buying him out anytime soon. What I do think will happen is we lose a couple more games, and there's going to be another Paul Colburn go out and play.
That's what I've been thinking for the last few weeks. I'm like, with how the way that West Ham Twitter is at the moment, it reminds me so much of that season, if not worse. And we're on the verge.
And that woke them up last time. Listen, I mean, I'm not condoning pitch invasions. I know it's dangerous. Players don't like it. All I'm saying is that Burnley match woke up the owners, and they went and they spent some money, and they solidified the squad. And we got a little bit better after that. And I think it's going to happen.
This time, instead of actually waking up the owners, maybe it'll wake up the manager.
I don't think he cares at this point.
No, I don't either, but it's a pipe dream.
Yeah, I think he has a stoic style. I don't think he's capable of going into energetic, screaming at the players mode. I think that's his style, and I don't think he can change that. So
no, I don't think so either. He reminds me of Avram Grant in that sense. I think he's a better manager. But Avram Grant was a John Terry slip away from winning Champions League. Let's not forget that. I mean,
true.
It's all about your players, really. But you can't fire all 11 players or 14 or 15 or 20 players. So all you can do is to change the one thing that you can change, and that's the manager. I think Pellegrini is 66 years old. He's already won his trophies. He's
just in it for one last paycheck.
Right. He's at what he considers a retirement job with a club with low expectations. He never wins anything. I think he's just in it for a last paycheck. I don't think he cares. I think when he sits there and he's totally motionless while we're getting tonked 3-0 and could have been down by more than that, I don't think it matters to him at all. I don't know. I don't think
my favorite quote from him recently, came over the weekend, was, "It's hard to win against teams when they score goals."
Yes,
what a brilliant insight.
I don't like the fact that he won't step up as a leader and say, "This is my problem and it's my fault and I will fix it." He's never said that.
He reminds me of Jose Mourinho with that regard. He almost pushes it more on the players.
He pushes it more on the players, and the players, of course, they're to blame. Of course. I mean, Felipe Anderson played as poorly on Saturday as I've ever seen him play. He's one of our guys who has to perform well. He was garbage. Poor Declan, I think, as young as he is, has been affected by the malaise of the whole club. And, I think it's shown in his performance. I think when you're 20 years old and you got a bunch of malcontents around you, it's hard to, be the one who is going against the tide, I guess. Noble has kind of hit his wall for the season at this point. Only Snodgrass is putting out full effort. He's just not that great a player, quite frankly. Love him, but he's not that great.
It's not Snodgrass either. They just turn around and say, well, you can see he's trying, and none of the others are trying.
He's trying. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Allaire have something in his contract that lets him pretty much walk away in January if he wants to? It wasn't that part of the condition of him signing?
He might have a buyout clause. I don't
know the details of that.
I'd have to go back and look at this, and I don't want to say this as gospel because it may not be true, but I remember something along the lines of it wasn't even a buyout clause. He could basically just take off. Oh, David, you got a fan. You got a fan from Ghana. There you go. Much love and respect to you, but not for the rest of us.
Yeah. I try. Back to Ghana.
We have good friends at our church who are from Ghana. Great people. I don't think they support West Ham, but still, that's okay.
So I just looked it up. Apparently, Allaire does have a clause in his might have a clause in his contract that allows him to walk if it's a Champions League team that comes in for him.
Okay, that's interesting because I think he desperately wants out of West Ham. I think he's made a horrible choice. I watch, and again, I don't blame him for our problems because he's not somebody who should be playing up front by himself. He's like Chicharito. He needs support. Fabianski, I'm sorry. Pellegrini won't play that formation. He won't play a 4-4-2. He won't play 2 up front.
I've never seen someone so stubborn to change.
I know, and he makes the wrong changes. Where is Ogbonna, who was playing the best football of his West Ham career? We pulled him, and all of a sudden you got Balbuena out there on Saturday, giving the ball away for the second goal.
And Pellegrini's reasoning for that being that what happens if Ogbonna goes down? Balbuena hasn't played.
So I mean. Okay, but that's true of any player, right? If that's the case, then why don't you just put out your reserves? I mean,
put on David Martin. You might as well.
Yeah, I mean, anybody.
What happens if Roberto goes down?
Playing well. Don't pull the guy who's in form. Don't put Zabaleta out against St. Maximus or whatever the guy's name from Newcastle was.
Maxime.
Yeah, who roasted us last weekend. I mean, it's just, where is Masuaku? Where is he? He was.
I think that's another big question. Where is Arthur Masuaku? What happened?
He wasn't even on the bench.
Terrible in the Oxford match, but up until then, his link, he had a good relationship with Felipe Anderson. Them going down that wing was really working. So I don't know if it's some clubhouse thing we don't know about. Well, I want to see Masuaku back. But
I want Masuaku back too.
I test how West Ham was with Masuaku in at that position and linking up with Felipe Anderson, it was good. It was enjoyable. It linked up with other passing in the offensive area. So I'd like to see him back.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, I don't know. Creswell hasn't done that bad, personally.
Yeah. But I would.
But he's a different player. He's a different player.
Cresswell hasn't done badly at all, but Masuaku's better going forward. And I wouldn't be against putting him on the left wing, period. And just saying, we'll play Cresswell left back and put Masuaku at left wing. And until this weekend, I would have been for moving Anderson.
And then you put Felipe Anderson in the center. Okay.
But I got to tell you, he was bad on Saturday. Bad. And I know people have talked about him for a few weeks not playing well. I honestly think the criticism has been a little harsh. I think he's one of the few players who's actually tried to get us going forward. But I watched him get dispossessed over and over and over again on Saturday. Like watching my 9-year-old's team play.
Yeah, I'm of two minds about it. Is that he's a certain type of player, and when everything is going bad around him, and he can't, when he does his tricks or wins the ball, and then he needs to pass to someone, and someone is not there, it's tough for him to operate.
Yeah.
I also feel some of the criticism about him has been unfair. Like I was reading the Knees Up Mother Brown forums.
Yeah.
And said, just give me one example of where he tracked back. And the other person said, well, he actually ran the whole length of the field or 3/4 of the length of the field twice to cover Saint Maxime. That he has a very kind of upright style of running and a cool kind of collected way of playing. And I think people say he's not trying. Well, that's not true. That being said, I would say his form since the Crystal Palace game has not been the best. But I don't think he's been a disaster, as some people are making him out to be.
I thought I didn't think so either until I thought yesterday he was as bad as I've ever seen him. But generally, though, I thought you were right. I actually thought he was one of the few players who actually seemed to have take some initiative. I can't. I'm for some reason I'm wanting to pull up headlines here and show them to everybody, but every time I do, my computer starts to crash, so I'm not going to do that. Sorry, Tim. But Knees Up Mother Brown. I know the whole idea is to pull up headlines about West Ham, but honestly, I'm having trouble doing that. So anyway, don't want to threaten the whole thing. last season's conspiracy theory that we advanced here at American Hammers TV was that every time we got close to going 7th, Pellegrini would pick some bizarro team and we would lose because we didn't actually want to be in Europe because it's Europa League costs money, doesn't make money. The players didn't want to go to Estonia in July and have to play some sort of qualifying match. That was the conspiracy theory last season. Probably not true, but you know what? Every time we got close, we'd get tomped and we'd put out some, completely random starting 11. This season's conspiracy theory that I'm starting right now is that the players have quit on Pellegrini and that the performance we saw on Saturday was intentional, that there was a bust-up in the room, that there is a dispute between the manager and the players, and that lack of effort, which was almost conspicuous to me. I mean, you have to try to be that bad. Roberto aside, he's just bad. He's just a bad player. But that they are actually being passive aggressive now, and they are actually doing like a work slowdown, to try to get him out. So that's my conspiracy theory. I'm throwing it out there. What do you guys think? Possible? Possible? What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, no, it did look like that after the first goal. I think it's all to do with Roberto, and they just got no confidence in him because, as soon as the first goal goes in, and the second one when he threw it over to Balbuena, and they were just like, "What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
what are you doing? Why are you still getting picked in this team?"
First,
yeah, I totally agree with Ray. I think it's a bunch of pieces in a puzzle. I don't think it's them agreeing to mutiny because they don't like Manuel Pellegrini. I think it starts with the center backs realizing that Roberto is not up to par, overcompensating a little bit. Then the fullbacks start to overcompensate. Then the center midfielders say, "Oh, we can't get the ball from the back." And then it all breaks down. And then, of course, Haller is just left off with no service.
Right.
I think it's all pieces of a puzzle. I don't think it's everyone gathering together in the locker room and doing a mutiny. I just don't think that. I think that happens, but I don't think that's happening in this case.
And it shows where there's no leaders on the team because there's no one actually doing anything to push them forward. When everyone's just literally, you look like you've got 11 players just going, "Oh." I remember the time when Noble come back and he was shouting at the strikers to say, "Get fucking back defending, come back."
Yeah.
And then
I think you can see it in the physical language of the players and all the bad passes. I can't memorize all the bad passes that have occurred, but it just seems like awful passing. And you see either the player who passed or the player who was going for the pass hold up their hands and go, "Oh," and like no one is taking responsibility. Yeah. I think everyone is blaming everyone else, but I think it starts with with Roberto and the lack of organization and not trusting that it's going to go well, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes a lot of sense, which actually leads me to another question. Are we all being too quick? And I don't think we are personally, but I'm going to throw this out anyway. Are we being too quick to say Pellegrini out? Should we wait until Fabianski comes back and see if all of a sudden our form improves? Because there is basically we started losing or not getting results when Fabianski went down. Now, I think it personally goes back to Oxford. I still think Oxford is the big breaking point in our season when we just set a bad tone. But anyway, there's a clear line of Fabianski going down and all of a sudden no results. Are we pinning too much on Pellegrini when we should really be saying, "Hey, this is all Roberto's fault"? I mean, is it fair to say Pellegrini out, or do we wait until Fabianski comes back and see what happens?
Just look at the tactics that he was bringing on, the substitutions it was making. Everyone could sit, Zabaleta against Max just got outrun. Yeah. Everyone was talking about
I agree. That was terrible. Everyone, even before that happened, said, what is going on? That makes no sense.
Well, and I go back to David.
Yeah, Zabaleta has no pace. Why match him up against one of the paciest wingers in the Premier League?
There's just loads of different things like the substitutions he was bringing on. He was bringing on the wrong players at the wrong time.
Too late. Always too late. Yeah, and I go back to, and I mean, you know how I feel. I feel as though I'm Pellegrini out no matter what. I think even if we beat Spurs, we're still in relegation trouble. I know that sounds crazy, but I really believe that. I go back to last season, David, to the Everton game and that we went to when we went to the event in Boston. and you had to read the starting 11 for West Ham on national television. And the look on your face was just like,
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. I felt so sorry for you because that was another game where we could have finished 7th if we'd won. A completely bizarre choice of players. And again, it was a dismal performance. And I see, Ray, just what you were talking about over and over again, the same formation. And when he does make changes to the lineup, they don't make any sense. Why are we pulling Ogbonna, who's one of the few players who's playing well? Why aren't we seeing Masuaku even on the bench? It just doesn't, the choice of the team doesn't make sense starting 11. And also the tactics, he just won't stop with the one up front. So I'm firmly sort of Pellegrini out, but I do think you got a point about Roberto that it starts at the back, it starts with a certain level of confidence at the back, and they know that he is a liability back there. And the first goal.
And also, sorry, Ray, where are you going to go?
I was just going to say, totally agree with that. It's like he is just a shambles at the back there. Absolute shambles.
First goal, he just needs to catch the ball, right? And then there's never a corner. He punches it when, nobody's around him for 10 yards, right? And he punches the ball as if he's surrounded. That leads to, it shouldn't have been a corner because it came off of a Burnley player.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, it really doesn't matter because we weren't.
We would have lost the match anyways, regardless.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Just with the punch as well, when he punches that, ain't you been taught to punch it to the sides, not straight out in front?
I tell my first grade players, my 6 and 7 year old kids when I coach them, never clear the ball in front of your own goal. Always clear it to the side. Always, always, always. Don't cross it in front of your own goal. Don't clear it in front. Always clear it to the side. So I'm no football expert, but I'm saying, Ray, I think you're right. I certainly think you punch it out. You don't punch it right back to where their striker's standing, so that he gets another shot. Yeah. So and beyond that, I don't see any reason why he doesn't catch that ball. Just catch it. You're a keeper. You get to use your hands. You can do it. It made no sense to me. And then of course, I did think the second goal, Balbuena, made an error there, but I don't think he expected to have the ball. So, and then the third was infamous. But you know what, though? If Fabianski's in goal, do we win that game? I don't think we do.
I don't think we do, but I think we win the Sheffield United game. And I read an article last year, and I think it holds true, that Pellegrini's actual strategy is based on creating quality chances and not having as many shots, but converting on a larger percentage of your shots. And then the other team getting more shots than you. But if you have a good goalkeeper and the way you organize your defense, there'll be lower quality shots and you'll be able to win that way. And I think the actual statistics backed it up. I think like Lucas Fabianski saw and saved the second most amount of shots in the Premier League last year.
The first,
but I think that also speaks to that Manuel Pellegrini has a very specific strategy. And if things don't go the way he wants to, and if there's injuries at a certain position, and like I said, we don't have depth, so he only works if his set of players are in. And if they're not, then it goes bad.
He's got no backup plan. He's got no. For me, he's unadaptable. He is just running into that brick wall as soon as it happens. With regards to Fabianski, though, we knew coming into the season that our strategy was just simply going to be screw however many they score, we'll just score more.
So, that is kind of his strategy.
Yeah, and like we knew that the defense or that our defense was going to be pretty piss poor, but to put it all on just Fabianski is just I don't think you can do that. Like
I'm not putting it all on him.
No, I know. Yeah, no.
Roberto is in a sense is a little bit on Manuel Pellegrini because his sporting director Mario Husios signed Roberto. So you know what I mean? Like that is a little bit on him for trusting his sporting director to sign that player.
What's funny though is before I don't remember who I saw who I saw that tweeted it, but apparently before we signed Fabianski, Roberto was going to be our first choice to bring over.
Yikes.
That's terrifying to me. Thank God we lucked into Fabianski.
Doubted him. Who watched him play? I feel as though keepers of all players should have the least problem integrating into the league, right? You get outfield players; they come from Spain to England, and they're not used to the physical play or the pace or whatever, the crowds or whatever. But a keeper is pretty much the same thing anywhere he goes, for the most part. I mean, there's not a lot of tactical changes to doing what they do. Who watched this guy play and who said, "Oh yeah, he's good enough"? I mean,
apparently there's a good highlight of a video of him with the Olympiacos, but that's all I know.
That's what just.
I watched it.
but you know, and again, we all know he's a huge liability, and I do put the blame on that on Pellegrini and Cusilios because they brought him in, they let Adrian go. They put all their, all their money on Fabianski, and then they lost that bet. But it still doesn't excuse to me. It doesn't excuse our lack of initiative going forward. Nobody ever makes a run. We don't cross the ball. These are fundamentals of football. We're not doing.
Well, yeah. Another story. It's the same story. It's like, why is our center midfield so lightweight? It seems like the Wilshire signing was just a disaster.
Yep.
I'm not 2020 quarterbacking, but when that signing happened, oh, say it again, Ray.
I would defend the Wilshire signing because they didn't have any money, and at that time when he signed him, and it was a toss of a coin. And if it worked out perfectly, we would have got a world-class player.
He had just one injury-free season at Bournemouth, and that's it.
He's a world-class player. He is a world-class player.
I will admit, at the time we did it, I liked it. I don't want to do a.
I didn't. I sent a WhatsApp message to my QPR friend saying no.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not gonna go back on my take because when we signed him, I thought it was a good signing. When we signed Fornals, I thought it was a good signing, and he's terrible.
I thought it was a really good signing too, but why do we need to do that when we have Lanzini in the same position?
I don't know. Well, we don't now.
Midfield. Always hold off on getting that.
That's another thing we should talk about is Lanzini is now out for I read 3 months, but then
I think it's at least 2.
At least 2, so probably 6. The biggest thing with Lanzini, to me, with losing Lanzini, I don't think he's been in form at all since his last injury.
No.
The biggest thing is we can't sell him now because there were rumors that good Lord Juventus were going to come in for him. I have a hard time believing that. But, I mean, there were rumors that there were like £40 million bids that were going to be on the table. I'd have taken that. I'd have snapped their hand off for that. But it's not going to happen now. It's because he's injured and he's off he's not going to go anywhere in January. He'll still be on our books. He'll be hanging out.
I go back on what I was saying. Maybe that's why we got Fornals, because we knew that Lanzini was going to get injured. Him and Wilshire are injury-prone players.
Yeah,
if we knew that he was going to get injured, why did we give him a new contract?
Yeah, that I agree. I didn't want us to give him a new contract.
I think it's time to move on from him. I think he's.
I totally agree.
I think he's another Andy Carroll, where he's going to end up spending more time on the injury table than he is on the pitch.
Not even Andy Carroll levels, but I just don't think you can ever trust him to be fit for a full season.
My fear with Lanzini, and yeah, Tim, maybe I'm thinking about it. My fear with Lanzini is that he's another that injury he had last season was so severe that he'll never really come back from it.
No.
And that he'll never be the player he was before. I mean, I heard over and over again, this is one of the worst injuries we've ever seen in football. It was vicious, and I worried about this when he came back. Wasn't really in form. Has never really been in form since, and now of course he's got another injury. I mean, it feels like a sort of Dean Ashton, Jack Collison type situation where a great player, potentially great player, really never gets that form back, and then he's done within like 2 seasons. It just has a bad.
And then coupled with that, now that we've given him such a exorbitant new contract, we're not going to be able to move him.
No, we're not. No, of course not. Yeah, he's going to hang out with Winston Reed now. So they're just going to kick it in the training room and
and make millions.
Poor Winston, but why are we still tied up with him? I mean, what is he? I don't know. Yes, he was a great player for us. Man, what's it like?
No, I actually disagree. He actually was injury-free and a good servant to the club
Yes,
for
he was.
I don't know, like 5 years, and then the injury problem started. I feel like he's anti-Lanzini Carroll in the sense that it wasn't
I agree.
consistent year-by-year injury situation. It was, he was injury-free for 5 or so years, and then the injuries started.
I agree, and I love Winston for everything he did for us. There were times when he was the best player on the pitch for us, and he scored the last goal at the Berlin. I mean, this guy's a legend no matter what. I can't. He's been gone for like 18 months or something like that. He had a setback in his reserve match a couple weeks ago, and I just wonder. I mean, is he going to be past it when he comes back anyway? You know, I mean,
He probably is going to be past it.
he's old enough now that it's not where he was 2-3 years ago or 5 years ago. I mean, it seems possible that he wouldn't, injury or otherwise, he just wouldn't be very good. You know.
The other problem is we ain't got no money to get
31
anyone.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry, Ray.
He's
Go ahead.
31 years.
So I was just saying, like, we've got no money to replace him. So who are we going to bring in?
Well, that's always a problem, isn't it? And Chris, you're right. What is he? 31? Is that right?
31. His birthday is July 3rd. So I mean, I thought he was older than that, to be honest.
I did too.
We signed him when he was extremely young. We signed him when he was like 21 or something, I believe.
I feel as though Winston Reed played with like Paolo Di Canio. I think Winston Reed was on the 86 team or maybe the 80. Winston Reed's like old as the hills for some
I
reason.
don't feel that way just because I started supporting West Ham in 2006. So that was like, he was signed after. So.
Was he not? Now, when was he in the World Cup with
How
his
did Reed get injured? Went he out drinking with Carroll and fell off a balcony or something?
Something like that.
No, I think it was on the pitch.
Rumor I heard.
I think there was a reverse rumor that's how Andy Carroll got in.
You guys know my Andy Carroll theory.
I could be completely wrong, though.
Another conspiracy theory about Andy Carroll is that he was never injured. He was in rehab all those times. You know, that's probably
there's an actual story you can look up. I forget what UK paper it's in, but it's like this story where Andy Carroll is partying with Kevin Nolan, who's supposed to be taking care of him, and they're doing lines, and there's a stripper in a cat suit and stuff like that. Look it up.
What the hell of a
Kevin Nolan cat suit. It's in like the Sun or something, but it's online. You can find it.
That's true then.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Nolan, I'm a little surprised. I guess I'm not really surprised, but
No, don't be surprised.
what Tim said. I'd be surprised if Reed ever played for us again, and I think it's a little sad the way he's had to go out. But yeah, my Andy Carroll conspiracy theory is that he wasn't injured. He was in rehab. He's had all sorts of substance abuse problems. That's my theory. It's probably not true. Andy Carroll, if I'm libeling you,
Conspiracy theory.
but I'm telling you, I mean, when we have the when ESPN does a 30 for 30 on West Ham someday, we're going to find all this stuff out. When they do the West Ham United story behind the scenes, it's all going to come out, I think, eventually. But yeah. So who gets injured during the international break?
who got call up? I know
Right.
So Lanzini can't get injured because he's already injured, right?
Injured, right? Yeah.
Reed is playing for New Zealand, I think.
I forgot about that. And West Ham, I remember seeing a report that West Ham is absolutely pissed about that.
So he could get injured again on New Zealand. That would be crazy.
When did we play the World Cup for New Zealand? Was that God? That was in 2002. Was it? It had to be 2006, surely, right?
Yeah, because my mom is Italian, even though I don't follow national team soccer. I think he played in 2002 against. I forget it was 2002 or 2006. He played against Italy when they drew against Italy.
Yeah, it was 2002. That's a really long time ago, if that's the case.
I think it was
He would have been 14.
No, there's no way. It was 2006 then. Yeah, it was 2006.
It was 2006.
Okay, 2006. All right, that sounds a little bit better anyway. Still a long time ago though. So who comes back with a career-ending injury? Who's even out for it? We have Declan.
Declan Rice is going to be the one getting injured, isn't he?
Yes, there you go.
We're knocking on wood here.
I hope not. Honestly, honest to God, I hope not. Obviously, but I never want to see anybody injured at all, but especially one of our players.
I want to see his haircut get injured. I don't know what's going on with his new haircut.
Well, he's growing it out. It looks like
It's like some weird like 60s mod. Like
His look is not great. look is not great. I'm not saying I'm an oil painting or anything.
And I love Declan Rice.
Declan Rice is an athletic young guy. He's a 20-year-old professional athlete. He's got to do something a little better with the Barnet. You know what I mean? It's just a little like, I don't know. He's kind of dorky looking, to be honest. So I don't know if he needs to go on one of those style shows, where they.
He needs to get stylish, but not too stylish, I think.
Right. He doesn't. Yeah. He just needs a little help.
He's not making the massive money yet, so he's probably still living on a budget.
That's true. So one thing that I think will give us a little boost in 2 weeks against Tottenham. One is playing against the club we will care about playing against. But Antonio's supposed to be back.
I've been trying to wiggle that in here at some point.
Yeah, how excited are we? I am unreasonably excited about that. I'm sure he will come back. He'll score a hat trick, and we'll begin our unbeaten run. Right?
Yeah.
Or he gets injured again.
Yeah, that's what
Ray's a true West Ham supporter, I can tell.
Comes on 5 minutes. I'm out.
Hamstring pull.
West Ham supporter. So Isaac, my 9-year-old, came up to New Hampshire with me on Saturday morning, and we were watching with Ken. And as soon as Burnley scored, Isaac said, "Well, there goes West Ham's chance of winning this game. We're even getting a draw." It's like, that's my boy. He gets it.
Right.
Guys, I got to tap out now, so I've been on far too long. But good
Great
luck.
talking to you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Come on, Yarns.
Yeah, we talk to you again soon. Appreciate Ray being on. Ray's always a good guy. Always good to have him on. And by the way, was it like middle of the night over there, right?
He said he had to be
very late.
too.
Yeah, it's
3 a.m., I think.
almost 3 a.m. I should have thanked him for being on at 3 a.m. I didn't even think about it. But I think he runs a bar anyway, or a couple bars. So
Yeah.
he probably keeps those hours on a regular basis. But yeah, so what do we think about Antonio? I mean, couldn't hurt. So who shifts where and who does what when he comes back, assuming he's available?
Yeah, that's a good question because he plays in Yarmolenko's position.
Right.
So then that game, since he's not match fit, Yarmolenko starts, right? Because he's not going to come off the bench right away to start. But then going on from there, I think you either have to choose him or Yarmolenko at that position, right?
I mean, I've said for a long time, and I'm certainly not the only one, but I've been a proponent for a long time of Yarmolenko up front with Allaire. Just make him a
That's what I was going to say too.
And you know what? And I know Antonio may not be available, and so it may not work against Tottenham, but I think going forward, to me, there's no reason why you can't have Yarmolenko playing up front and have Allaire knocking the ball down for him, doing the old Carlton Cole thing.
If Pellegrini doesn't trust Ayeti enough, it's worth a shot.
And he shouldn't, because Ayeti has.
I see what you guys are saying.
Yeah, Ayeti has looked dismal so far. I mean,
he hasn't had much. I don't really.
But he's there.
Chris, this one, he hasn't even had much time to show.
I don't see much of a sample size.
And we've all been the whole team has been terrible, so it's hard to
figure.
Yeah, I agree. Like
we always get subbed in. We're 2-3 now.
They get subbed in when we're desperate. When we're down 3-0 and we've already given up, and
I'll throw him in.
Yeah, not fair to judge him. Really, that's true. But I've to me, do what we did kind of with. Sorry to mention him, but with Arnautovic. I mean, bring Yarmolenko in. He can play. He's done it before with previous clubs. He can play up front.
Antonio.
Wait a second. So then if you did Yarmolenko, Antonio, Haller, Anderson, wouldn't your central midfield just have to be Rice and Noble would have to go off, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna,
right, you're like,
if you're going to play 4 at the back, yeah, and you'd have to have you'd have Anderson.
Anderson on the left or in the middle.
Yeah. Then you'd have Antonio. Right.
Second striker, right, behind Haller. Then you'd have Yarmolenko.
Look at us trying to do math here.
Yeah. I gotta get
At this. That's why we're not managers.
Yeah, well, you'd have the 4 at the back, and then your 4 in the middle, if you're going to do 4-4-2, for instance, would be Anderson, Rice in more of a defensive position in the middle, and then you'd have Yarmolenko. I mean, sorry, you'd have Antonio on the right, and I don't know. If you don't have Anderson on the left, who do you put out there? Do you put Masuaku out there, maybe?
Grass, maybe.
Or you could do
I think it goes back to that Pellegrini is so set in the way he plays. It's like hard to make adjustments. You know what I mean? It's like
If you could have,
he would never play 3 at the back. Like sometimes you'd want him to go with like scare the other manager with a new type of tactic where he played 3 at the back, but he's never going to do that.
It must be the easiest club to prepare to play against. I don't know how football managers prepare their teams. In American football, you watch film, right? I mean, that's what you do. So you watch film of the other team, and you prepare based on what you see on the film. If you watch film of West Ham, you see the same thing every week. There's no variation. There's no.
I remembered seeing an interview with it's Steve Bruce who manages Newcastle, correct?
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was talking about how he knew exactly how West Ham was going to play, and they worked all week on how to get in behind them. So all you have to do, every club in the entire division playing us just has to look off of that one match, see how they did it.
And the other thing that just kills me again is Newcastle had scored. I don't think Newcastle had scored an away goal at all this season prior to our match against them, or maybe they hadn't scored more than one. Something along those lines.
The record was really bad.
Everybody, Everton were in the relegation zone. Newcastle were in terrible form. Burnley were in terrible. All these clubs come in and they're just abysmal, and then we make them look like Brazil.
Sheffield United,
It's
they're
just-
actually a decent team this year, surprisingly. They're up in fifth.
United are actually a pretty good team. And Sheffield United are a good team, and that's the only one we managed to get a result against. And even that wasn't a result; it was a draw at home. But
Yeah.
Everybody else comes in just scraping the bottom of the barrel, and we bail them out. It's absolutely,
Going back to what you were talking about earlier with like the conspiracy theories, like last year's like them, like they didn't want to get up there. I was the first thing when you said that, I'm like that kind of could be plausible with this year too, because we were up in third and just nosedive to the bottom. If we like with the teams coming up with how prolific they are, how good they are, if we start picking up results to get back in the mid-table area, I might be a believer into that conspiracy theory.
And I'll tell you that my conspiracy theory from last season, that wasn't about Pellegrini, that was about Golden Sullivan, that they didn't want to pay to send us off.
Yeah,
They didn't want to pay to send us off to Lithuania to lose in the qualifiers of the Europa League in the middle of July. I 10% of me still believes that was true. I don't know. That's ridiculous.
who knows?
Not totally outside the realm of possibility.
No, I don't believe this. I watched that game in a pub in Crowthorne, England, and there were just so many like point blank misses. What was the name of that Spanish striker? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name now. He was extremely young. He was from Deportivo Maldonado, who had like signed him on a co-loan, but he missed like 2 sitters. I don't think the owners made him miss those sitters.
Is it about Perez?
No. It was the first season when we were at the Olympic Stadium. I can't.
Tony Martinez?
No. It's not Martinez, who was on loan at Valladolid. Cagliari, that was it. Cagliari.
He's Argentinian.
Yeah, he just missed these 2 open sitters. That was like, I can't believe this. We would have made you wrong.
Yeah, Cagliari was garbage. Wasn't he from Argentina? I thought he was from Argentina.
Yeah, he is.
From Argentina, but he has since gone on to be okay in the Spanish league. But he was signed from Deportivo Maldonado, who's this like controversial team because they're like not a real team. They just sign players on these contracts with the agents to where they can sign them forward for the agents to make money.
Right. Well, I've heard about that. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, thank you, Vernon. It was Cagliari, and he was from Argentina, and he was garbage. And then you have the West Ham effect. If you're struggling in your career as a professional footballer, come to West Ham, not to rehabilitate your career here, but the next place you go.
Yep.
Lucas Perez, 5 in 5 or 7 in 7 or something like that for
Simeone Zaza.
Alaves, yeah.
Zaza, Perez. I don't know.
What's Montoya doing now?
I don't know how many other guys we can think of who've come through over the years and they've been terrible for us, and then they've gone to the next club and they blow up. Which just makes me wonder. I really think the heart of all our problems is Gold and Sullivan, and I've felt that for a long time.
I agree with that.
Now they did spend some money on the squad. They did make some investment. All right, I give them credit for that. I think they are terrible owners on many levels. Not even worth getting into here because we're almost out of time. I think Karen Brady is a cancer. The way she writes this ridiculous column in the Sun, throws people's names out and criticizes them, and criticizes her own players and says nasty things. And I just don't understand the point of her at all. Why she even exists. Why she's even part of the club, what her role is, I have no idea. I think David Gold strikes me as a half decent guy, but he's old. He's like in his 80s. Sullivan is a little, pornographer midget who just, in my mind, is just. I just don't like him. I'm just gonna leave it.
He's not. No one likes him. I don't.
And I just don't think that they have ever. I mean, they don't, I know David Gold was born across the street from, the Boleyn and all that. And again, I don't really have any problem with him, but I don't think they care that much about the long-term future of the club. I don't think they've made, I don't necessarily even blame them for the Olympic Stadium deal the way most fans do. I think it wasn't the worst idea we've ever had to get to a bigger stadium, make more money. I don't know that it was possible to build where the Boleyn was, but it's just the way they run the club, the managers they brought in, the lack of visibility, the lack of leadership. They're the problem. And until we get rid of them, we're never going to be a top 6 club. That's just all there is to it, But we certainly shouldn't be battling relegation. That's outrageous.
Yeah.
Correct.
If there was ever a year to break into the top 6, it would be this year, with Tottenham struggling the way they are, with Man United the way that they're struggling.
The door is wide open. The door is wide open. This is just like I don't even want to talk about this, but I've backed myself into a corner. It's just like the Bruins losing Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals at home. And I'm still not over it. There's never been a more wide open door than there was this year or last season for the Bruins. And it's the same with West Ham this season. There's never been a more wide open door. With Liverpool looked dominant. But other than that, I mean, Manchester United, Tottenham, Chelsea have turned it around, but they struggle.
Yeah, they're hot and cold.
Yeah, they're hot. Exactly. Hot and cold.
Top 2, it's determined. It's Liverpool, Man City. I mean,
right. And that's fine.
Right. Conclusion.
But there's never been a wider door open to the top 6 in this season. And we are not only not walking through it, we are running in the other direction.
Yeah.
And
one of the tweets I saw, and unfortunately it's true, is as much as we bash on Leicester are what we wish we were.
True.
Yeah, of course they are. They're exactly what we wish we were.
At the beginning of the season, I thought they're going to finish ahead of us, but we would be in a battle with them, to finish just slightly below them. We could finish 6th or 7th. Because I knew that Arsenal wouldn't be as good, Man U wouldn't be as good. I didn't.
Leicester looking incredible.
They have struggled,
and they are.
Everton, I didn't think would struggle, but they have struggled. But I thought we could hit on the same level as those teams. To me, though, the story that goes in conjunction with what you're saying, Lee, about the owners is just our lack of depth. To me, that's a story that no one identified. Is we started the season out strong, and it was a false dawn, because when we had everyone healthy, we had Antonio healthy, we had Fabianski healthy. We were kind of like a well-oiled machine. We were playing attractive football. We were breaking. We were scoring semi-attractive goals. Haller did have service. But once you have 2 or 3 injuries and you don't have that depth, I think that's why we've struggled.
That's what separates us from the
combination of the owners. It's a combination of Pellegrini signing Roberto, or his technical director signing Roberto. But I don't know where it goes, where Pellegrini says to the owners, I want to sign these players, and they say, we don't have enough money.
I don't either.
It goes with someone who's Carlos Sanchez, because he knows that only who he can afford. Right. I think it's a combination. I think it's a Pellegrini being very stubborn in his tactics and wanting certain players, but also the owners not backing him up with enough money.
I feel the same way. I mean, our problems run deeper than Pellegrini. That my thought is we're in crisis at this point.
I'm fully pressing that panic button.
And there's only one thing you can do. You can't sack the owners. You can't sack all the players. You can't even sit all the players who aren't performing because that's most of them.
Mhm.
One thing you have to do is change the manager. We did it when Bilic, who I always thought was a terrible manager. I know a lot of people liked him, but I put all of his success on Dimitri Payet, basically, and a club that stayed decently healthy for a while, but mostly Payet.
And the passion of the last season of the
And the last season to Berlin, right? Exactly, and
Yeah.
the whole, right. I think he caught lightning in a bottle. But when Bilic was taking us down, which he was doing, we switched to Moyes, not a dynamic manager, but he was organized enough to get us through and keep us up. And I think what we need now is a stopgap for this season. And then, as Ray said, we go out and get Eddie Howe. We go out and find somebody.
Yeah, but do you think the owners are actually going to do that?
No.
See,
Well,
that's where we're at. We're in this.
And that's what I mean.
We're in a perpetual
Never
loop.
going to go to the next level. You know what I mean?
We're in a perpetual loop.
Yeah, we're in a perpetual loop.
The owners
I thought we were out of it with Pellegrini because he had a good record at Malaga and Villarreal with not a lot of money spent.
Right.
And I thought he knew what he was doing, but it seems like he knows what he's doing, but only in a certain set of circumstances. And the certain set of circumstances aren't lining up right now. So now we're back to the old loop. And I feel like this is a lost season. I feel like, personally, I actually feel we're not going to get relegated. I feel like we're in a crisis right now, but when Fabianski comes back, we'll pick up enough points to avoid relegation. Not because we're that good, but just because Watford are so bad, Norwich are so bad, Southampton are so bad.
Yes,
They decimated us, just aren't as good as us. I don't think we'll get relegated, but to me, this is just a lost season.
Well, what sucks about that though is that we're in a position that we shouldn't be struggling. Like we shouldn't be satisfied with just staying up.
No,
we're bringing in big players.
We shouldn't be, but that's kind of like with these owners. I think that's the most we can hope for. I think they're just hoping to sell on the club at a profit, and they just want to do not the bare minimum to stay in the Premier League, but enough to get enough people in the stands to where it looks acceptable and to where they can sell something that we're going forward. But I don't think they really care that we reach glorious heights and that we make Europa League. And
they don't love the club. And
No.
they don't have the kind of money to show off like Manchester City's owners do, or people who have this massive war chest to spend. No, the problem always comes down to ownership in sports. I think that's true in almost any sport you want to talk about across the world. The most successful clubs have the best owners, generally speaking. And the least successful clubs have the worst owners. We see that in American sports all the time. And I think you're right. I think the core of it comes down to Gold and Sullivan. It comes down to the fact that they won't go out and get an Eddie Howe. They went out and they got Bilic, who was like their 10th choice, who had the one season when, again, everything came together once, which was an unusual situation. Then we saw what kind of manager he really was. And as you said, since then, we thought we had something at Pellegrini.
He has done well at West Brom. I'll give him that.
He's done very well at West Brom, and I don't dislike him as a person. I just he wasn't getting it done for us, and we'll see where West Brom finishes. They may go up. They may. I mean, he may bring him back. I don't know. Right now, they're a lock, but it's November, so long way to go.
But going back to the squad depth with regards to the owners, I mean, that's what's going to separate us from the big boys going forward. The Man Cities, yes, they have a hell of a lot of money and a lot more name recognition than we do, but they splash the money on the big players, on the first team players, but they also spend good amount of money on the backups.
Yeah,
I know. On rejects from other squads, youth players,
deals, and Vernon's got a point here. Sullivan loves to go out and talk about how much money he saved.
That should be a bragging point in the sport.
I think he's right. I think we, of course, when we got rid of Adrian, I loved Adrian for who he was. I didn't think he was a great keeper, but I loved
Liverpool.
I take him back now, obviously.
Yeah.
But I know Dan disagrees with us. I mean, he thinks that it's not time to be a panic. But I haven't felt like this about West Ham. I don't know, maybe since Avram Grant was here. Even with Bilic, when I thought things were really going poorly, I'm not sure I've seen the lack of effort. I'm not sure I've seen the lack of. I mean, at least Bilic was interested.
Yeah.
I mean, at least he had passionate. Pellegrini doesn't seem to care what happens. That's the other thing about him is he keeps trying to just say, "Well, don't know what's going on. What to figure it out." I mean, you figure it out. It's your job to figure it out, Benwell. You figure it out. So anyway, on that note, I have to cede the attic to our guests who are staying here tonight. So Chris and David, and of course Ray, who was with us earlier. Thanks to you guys for being on.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh, Neil,
Pleasure.
Neil, you guys, what's going on? Neil shows up. Tebow
Yeah,
shows
everyone's showing up at the very
They're
last.
all right at the end. They're all right at the end. Listen, go back and watch the replay, guys, okay? This was a good one tonight. We had Ray on with us. It was a good one. So I think there's a show at 8 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken. Check in around 8 o'clock. If it's not at 8, it's at 9, but I think it's at 8. And we're going to, we have stuff all week now on the channel. Please look at the scarves. Look at buying a scarf. Look at our threadless thing. And thanks to everybody who's in the chat room, to Vernon, Dan, Neil, Thibaut, our friend from Ghana who loves David and not any of the rest of us.
Ajasuma.
Yes. We love having people from all over the
I
world.
love him too.
We're working on all sorts of great stuff. We're going to be. We had the Russian Hammers on earlier today. We're going to have, or I think it was Tim did that a few hours ago. We're going to have supporters groups on from all over the world. So we're doing a lot of good stuff. So anyway, David and Chris, thanks to you guys. Enjoy your week off.
2 weeks.
And come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons.